Welcome. I'm Dr. Bernadette Bodenel-Balla, Director and Founding Dean of Public Health, and I want to welcome you to our town hall today, Flattening the Curve. The first thing I'd like to do, though, is have everybody take a deep breath. A lot's happened in the last couple of days, and I think it's better that we get this information in a relaxed way. So on the count of three, and for all of you out there, 1, 2, 3. It's all going to be okay. We've gathered senior campus leaders today together to help begin to address questions and concerns that remain outstanding for our students, faculty, staff, and parents. Things have moved quickly, and so we want to thank everyone for their patience as details are worked out. We understand that final exam time is an anxious period without the additional burden of instruction going online. People come first. There are two things the campus is really trying to balance: health and well-being, and academic and research success. So let's have the panelists introduce themselves now.
Good afternoon. My name is Willie Banks. I'm the Vice Chancellor for Student Affairs.
Good afternoon. My name is Ramona Agrellan. I'm the Associate Chancellor of Human Resources.
Good afternoon. I'm Michael Denon, the Vice Provost for Teaching and Learning, Dean of the Division of Undergraduate Education, and a professor in physics and astronomy.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Pramod Kargonkar, Vice Chancellor for Research.
Hello, I'm Patty Morales, Associate Vice Chancellor for Enrollment Management.
So through the UCI Coronavirus Response Center, we've received hundreds of questions over the last 48 hours. And we're going to spend some time today answering the most immediate question. It's our hope that we're going to have future town hall sessions to answer some of these more long-term issues. So let's start with what is right in front of us, final exams. Vice Provost Denon, can you walk us through the final exams and what that will look like generally?
Yes, I think the first most important thing to say for students is don't panic, relax. I know it's hard not to panic about final exams under the best of circumstances, but as a faculty, and speaking for all the faculty I've been talking to, we're not actually out to get you. This is about making sure that we actually determine grades in a fair and equitable manner for all students under the conditions that we have. So for many of you, this will mean a remote exam, which is a new thing, but we have pretty much thoroughly tested the software at this point. We have faculty and IT working hard on it. The key thing is each instructor is the one who best knows how to determine final grades in their course most fairly, and best knows how to adjust to make sure we're keeping all of the academic criteria in place while maintaining all the social distancing and public health best practices so that your health stays number one. So the number one advice is listen to your instructors, check their emails regularly, know what they're doing, because each course will look slightly different because each course has been different for the whole quarter. There is no one-size-fits-all course at UCI, and so there won't be one-size-fits-all final exams. They will all follow really good general guidelines, but they're going to be tailored to make sure you have a fair and reasonable experience in the class.
Thanks, Vice Provost Denon. Vice Chancellor Banks, your office has received scores of inquiries related to a range of student affairs topics, not the least of which is housing, dining, transportation.
Yes.
So Chancellor Gilman's message asks students to return home where possible. Can students stay until after their finals? And if they leave campus, what considerations is campus giving to rent, meal plans, and parking permits?
Sure. And those are all great questions, and you are correct. We have received scores of questions related to our housing, dining, and transportation. First thing that I want to tell everyone is that we are not kicking anyone out from their residence halls. We understand that everyone has different circumstances, and for some of our students, their residence hall is their home, and we will work with you. Later on this afternoon, everyone in residence life and who lives in housing will receive messaging from our office that talks about the process, that if they do want to stay and remain on campus, what that process will look like. And for those students who are choosing to go home, there is a process. We will actually ask folks to actually let us know if they choose to go home. And after a certain point in time, we will then start doing refunds to students related to their housing and also their meal plans and also their parking parking. But I do just want to caution everyone, they should get the messaging out, hopefully, if not by the end of the day today, but at the latest Monday. And I understand that everyone wants this information, and we are working so much, but a lot of this is driven by the system office and making sure that we're being consistent across all of our campuses within the UC system. And so I think that's most important. And the reason we want to do this is what you said, is around social distancing. It's making sure that the density within the residence halls, that we're really practicing what we preach. The other piece that I would like to mention is that our offices are open. There may be reduced services, but just continue to watch for emails and tweets. I'm not sure that we will go on Reddit to post this information, but please make sure you check your email, because I think that's probably the best way to find out information.
Great, thanks. And so, dining and housing fees are only one part of a student experience. Ramona, can you share with us what plans are being made for student workers?
Absolutely. As Willie said, the student experience is very important, and we want to extend that to our student employees as well. So students that are willing and able to work, we want to make sure that they have jobs. So we're working with our campus departments to identify those areas that may have reduced workloads and where the student workers no longer have an opportunity. We're collecting all that information and we're sharing it with other parts of our campus community, because there are areas that normally don't have students that now need students. So we want to ensure that any student that has a desire and an ability to work will have a job on campus. So look out for more information, but we're going to make sure that all those students have jobs.
Thanks. I have to acknowledge that the details that are being worked out to ensure that we can all take care of our students are enormous. And they're being carried out largely by dedicated staff. There are financial officers, staff in the registrars, other offices around campus committed to answering questions and providing that same level of service, although in new business modes that we're not used to. So Associate Vice Chancellor Morales, Patty, can you talk about the difficulties of this situation for our students and what we're doing and planning to do to help?
Of course. I really feel for students and families. We all do, obviously. It's a very disruptive time. In addition to all of the academic stressors and the concern about the experience in student life that these students have become accustomed to, there are very pragmatic issues that are on their minds, such as questions related to aid, questions related to registration status, registering for courses, keeping a course of study consistent with their majors. And the staff in registrar, financial aid, student billing, and many other staff are working very, very hard. And more importantly, they're working very collaboratively to come up with creative ways to adjust and serve our students and families. We do not, admittedly, have every answer already formulated because the situation is evolving so rapidly. But I want to stress, again, the collaborative nature of the faculty and staff at UCI who are working together to understand the needs of the students, which are very multifaceted, and the ways that we can each lend our talents to find the best solution to their questions and issues. We're here to support them through that.
That's great. And could you walk us through what else is being done with regard to larger events, including things like campus tours?
Yes. Out of an abundance of caution, we have canceled our campus tours. So those would be tours for prospective students and families, but also other events that would have been sponsored, for example, by the Office of Undergraduate Admissions. We had, this time of year, many scheduled events, some of them large scale, for example, Celebrate UCI. And in keeping with guidelines from local officials, from campus officials, state and elsewhere, we have canceled those as in-person events. However, we do have virtual versions of all of these events, and we have an amazing virtual online tour on the admissions website, admissions.uci.edu. I think you should check it out because it's a really wonderful sort of point of view tour of the campus, and we will also be doing webinars and various virtual events with our admissions staff. So we hope you'll check that out.
Thank you so much. So one of the things really that makes UCI great is that it's a wonderful research university. And as such, research is being conducted all hours of the day. Research is an enterprise that takes staff, faculty, and students, both undergraduate and graduate, working together to make all of that work. What's the research top priority when it comes to the continuity of the research? And Vice Chancellor, what guidance are you giving to researchers and graduate students? How do you make adjustments in the research operation to help us flatten the curve?
That's a great question, Bernadette. And we just released earlier this week guidance to campus community on how we should think about research continuity. As you know, the campus remains open, the labs and offices remain open, and we would like research to go on as much as possible. But number one priority is health and safety and wellness of our people on campus and off campus. So that remains the highest priority. And in that regard, doing all the usual things like washing hands and so forth is the advice that everybody should take. Beyond that, we are asking principal investigators, faculty, lead researchers, center directors, department chairs, deans, and so forth to start planning on how to maintain research continuity as this coronavirus develops. To the extent that's possible, to do remote work because in many disciplines and many areas, you don't have to be face-to-face, so we want people to think about how they can continue to do their work while taking advantage of remote work is something that we are encouraging. But in some labs, that's not possible. So in some areas, you actually have to be in person and work with the equipment. There we are really using the social distancing concept. So we want people to keep safe distance from each other, make sure that they are in good health, and if they are not feeling well, don't go to the lab, work with your supervisors. We are also encouraging staff to be able to do remote work so that they also remain in good health and continue to work. So all in all, we are basically saying number one priority is health and wellness. Use the flexibility that's offered in today's research environment. Work with colleagues, work with members of your lab and your group and your department to make sure that we can continue to operate safely and flatten the curve, as you say, Bernadette.
So it's really clear that leadership in the university at large is really doing a tremendous amount to help to make this transition, again, to flatten the curve, to keep the distance of about 6 feet, and to keep everybody healthy and well. And a big part of this adjustment is really for staff and allowing them to do their work, but to be flexible. So, Ramona, can you tell us a little bit more about how you're working to do that?
Yes, thank you, Bernadette. So as has already been expressed, taking care of our people is our top priority, and that includes our staff. They are the backbone of the university. So we want to make sure that our staff have all the tools and resources they need to do their job, because as was already mentioned, the university is open. Our operations continue to be open. But we want to also make sure that we're sensitive to the needs of our staff. And just today, right before this town hall started, we got word that the Orange County school districts are closed starting next week. And that same thing has happened in other counties as well. So we want to make sure that we're there to support our staff who have to take care of their families as well. So what we are doing is we are practicing the social distancing provisions that the Chancellor has outlined in his email. And so to do that, one of the options we're providing our staff is the ability to telecommute. And so we are working with leaders of the units to identify flexible work arrangements so they can work with their staff, so those staff who have the ability to work from home can do so. There's procedures in place, there's an agreement that needs to be filled out, and we have to make sure they have the equipment they need to be effective at home. But all those things can be worked out with your supervisor and with the department heads. So we're doing that actively right now. As a matter of fact, this afternoon I had a call with a bunch of administrators to talk about the process for ensuring telecommute. If that doesn't work, or if individuals need to come into the office, because we are still open, we're, as Pramod had described, we're practicing social distancing, making sure that people wash their hands, that they use the hand sanitizers where necessary, that they keep the 6 feet apart from one another. Meetings are now Zoom meetings. We're trying to eliminate in-person meetings. And then offer offices instead of cubicles, making sure there's spaces between cubicles, so ensuring that there's enough space between employees if they have to come to work.
That's great. So, this is really unprecedented, what we're experiencing and what we're going to experience. And I know that there's a big concern about things like Zoom and, how many people are going to be on it. And even today, at the beginning of this webcast, we did experience some technical issues. And so we just want to say that this is all going to be archived. So we do want to invite people to come and make sure that they've seen the beginning of this town hall. So let's go back to spring is a really busy quarter, and there's a lot going on campus. Celebrate UCI, admitted student tours, commencement. So, Vice Chancellor Banks, it's early, but can you walk us through what are the things that are being discussed around campus tours, around events, and really around commencement?
Sure. I will defer to Patty Morales for the campus tours piece, but I can talk to you first about the commencement piece. And I think probably through this entire experience, I think one of the hardest decisions that our office and that I have had to make with our staff is really what to do about commencement, because we're talking about a number of people in a relatively, even though it seems large, smaller space. Unfortunately, we're going to have to cancel commencement for this year, and we're going to really try to figure out how can we replace that experience for our students. Because a number of our students, this is a culminating experience to be able to walk across the stage. I would say shake the chancellor's hand or the dean of their school, but we can't do that. And I think out of an abundance of caution, we really had to take into consideration what does that look like, especially when we're in the middle of a public health emergency. And so when we're talking about flattening the curve, one of the things that we really had to consider was commencement. And unfortunately, we're going to have to cancel that. We will send out some more guidance about what we can do, and we're looking at a number of options for our graduates, because we understand this is a huge milestone in their life, and we love our students, and for them to graduate from UCI and to be a graduate of the University of California, Irvine is an important thing, and we want to celebrate that. But we also have to take into consideration what are the risks when we have that many people in that space. And so that guidance will be coming out, if not within the next day or so, probably within the week.
Yeah, I think that was a really difficult decision, but thank you for giving us information on that. Patty, is there anything else that you want to add about any other events for the spring?
Yes, thank you. One of the biggest events that come for the spring isn't for current students necessarily, but prospective students, and that's of course the admission round for the fall 20 cohort. I want to assure everyone that we are making admission offers as usual. They are scheduled to be released probably late next week or a little bit thereafter. Along with those admission decisions, we will also be providing financial aid packages, which would follow probably a week or so after an admissions notification if an admission offer is made. We will need a little bit more time this year to package financial aid because there's so much going on. But I want to assure anyone watching this who might know somebody who has an application into UCI, we have processed them all. That business has been going on as usual. We are looking forward to making admission offers within a few days and still making plans for the fall 20 cycle. So I want students to know, their families to know that that is still underway.
Thank you. So the graduate student experience includes both research and teaching, but it also includes things like giving talks at other universities, potentially going for job interviews, definitely conferences. And I know I've had at least 4 or 5 conferences canceled in the last couple of weeks. So this is a time of increasingly difficult travel restrictions, and we have even some guidance to not to invite traveling guests to our campus for the time being. So Vice Chancellor, what are some of the ways that graduate students can maintain progress given these tight restrictions?
Yeah, I mean, I think, as you said, the first and foremost, we would encourage all graduate students to follow UCI travel policies. I mean, those have been well thought out. they're in their best interest and in the best interest of all of the communities. So follow the travel policy on the UCI website. Having said that, in this day and age, one can do a lot with video conferencing and video interviews and video meetings. So I would encourage you to take advantage of things like Zoom and Skype and other such ways of connecting with colleagues, connecting with potential visits that you might have planned to another university or another lab at another campus. So don't just stop. I mean, I think there are many things that you can do to stay on top of things, because every other university is doing the same thing. They are also curtailing their travel and their visits. So it's not disproportionate to people at UCI. I think it is happening in the US and worldwide. So everybody is making adjustments to these changing circumstances, but there is a lot that one can still do.
Thanks. So let's end with a question that looks forward to the spring quarter. We're socially distancing, we know that, but we remain digitally connected. Vice Provost Denon, what can students expect to see coming up in the spring quarter while they're gearing up to learn remotely? And what tips do you have on how to sort of optimize that learning?
So I think it's really important to look at two sides of this as the students, for yourselves. Know that essentially all courses will be remote and you won't need to be here. This goes with our plan that if you wish to leave and go home, that you can. Two things for you to check as you prepare for this and make the decision about whether to stay on campus or go home from an instructional point of view. We recognize there may be other reasons behind the decision, but instructionally, you just need really, really good Wi-Fi or internet, no matter how you're going to do this. And so that might be for you the reason to stay on campus. As much as we encourage you to go home and we support that, evaluate that and talk to people in either student affairs or in my office about those needs. Because you will have, of course, internet if you stay on campus, which will be key to any remote learning. The other side is access to a computer. And I will report we're gearing up to get loaner laptops for students. We will have those and we'll have information in the next week. We plan to have it before people leave for spring break. So again, you can reach out to my office, but we're going to be regularly updating the website. There will be a dedicated student website for what you need, what technology you need, and all that for learning. So those are the technical pieces. What access will you have and what tool will you have? In some very rare cases, there are a few classes that there is just no way to do remote. You'll get information on that if you're in those groups. But I think this is the most important thing. I'm going to brag for a moment about UCI. We lead the UCs already in online courses. We have over 100 faculty every year teaching in fully online modes to begin with. We have the leading researchers in online education, and we have one of the best staff supporting it. So what I can say is your experience remote will be worthy of a UCI academic experience. It will be different, but it will still be a UCI academic experience.
Thanks a lot to consider and many more questions to come. So as we consider being part of UCI and being part of a community, one of the things that we want to be is responsive as a community. And so flattening the curve, our goal is really about that. It's about keeping social distance so we do not transmit disease. It's about making sure that we are prepared with clean hands and not touching our face, and providing information and not misinformation to people. We want to try and sort of lengthen the spread, and so we get to a point where we've actually stopped the spread and not have everybody with the virus at one time, which would really just overtax our healthcare system. So I want to thank each and every one of you for really being together as part of the UCI community during this unprecedented time. We'll have the Coronavirus Information Center is going to remain open. You can email anytime at covid19@uci.edu or call 949-824-9918 during business hours. And for update details and FAQs, you can visit uci.edu/coronavirus. Thank you all again. The most important thing is that we do this all together, of course, socially distant. Have a good day. Bye now.